This video is part 2 of the tutorial for these Polygel 3D Chrome Mermaid nails, so please keep watching to see shaping and nail art. Before we jump into the tutorial, don't forget to subscribe, leave any questions in the comments, and I will be happy to respond, and be sure to check out my other Polygel videos linked above. I am going to be wearing a glove. I don't always wear gloves when I shape, but I have a nasty cut on my hand, scrape, whatever you want to call it, so I wanted to make sure it was covered as well as possible. And also part 1 is already posted with prep and application, so I will leave a link to that above as well. And let's jump into the shaping. So I'm using my Melody Susie nail drill. I love this drill. It's super affordable and it works great. So if you're in the market for one, this is a great one to invest in. It goes up to 30 RPMs. I have never used that speed, but just so you can see that there are a range of speeds for this, and it goes forward and reverse. I would also highly recommend investing in a dust collector. It's super important to protect your lungs. You can accumulate a lot of dust just from filing one set, whether you're doing your own nails, and especially if you're working on clients. So I would recommend getting one, and I use the Young Nails one. I feel like it doesn't make a lot of noise, and I've been using it for 3 years, since the beginning of my nail journey, and it works great. So the first drill bit I always go in with is a fine grit 5-in-1 drill bit. This is the Kiara Sky. You can use Pana. It is basically the same thing. The great thing about this one is it has that cone shape, so it's perfect for that cuticle area like I'm pointing out here. I use it at a very low speed, about 3 or 4 RPMs. So let's start with this drill bit first, and I'm just grabbing my mask here as well before I start. I always wear a mask when I file in addition to using my dust collector. So I always like to do this step first. We're not necessarily sealing the cuticle just yet, but we are working our way towards it. Cleaning up the cuticle area and just debulking the apex as needed really helps me see where I need to shape more or less. You can always have a shaping routine, of course. I have mine, but you may need to use one drill bit more or less, do more shaping in one area more. It just depends. So you kind of need to be able to adapt and really visually see where your nail needs more shaping and what drill bit to use. So I'm obviously using my non-dominant hand here, so it looks a little awkward. We're just taking it slow and just trying to basically debulk and clean up the cuticle area. And I'm just showing here again that cone shape. So you want to use the tip of the tapered bit around the cuticle area and use the middle and the larger part of it to debulk, but try to keep it parallel to the nail. Now I'm grabbing another 5-in-1 bit. This is a medium grit bit. I don't always use this bit anymore. I used to use it a lot more not too long ago, but I tend to use it when I'm shaping my non-dominant hand, and that's because I usually need to debulk a little bit more. Obviously my application is not as great using my non-dominant hand, so a more coarse 5-in-1 bit helps me debulk that apex area and just kind of smooth things out a little bit more than a fine grit would. So I'm just using that here around the edges and just trying to make sure I keep a nice clean cuticle area and don't file away too much. So like I'm pointing here, if there is too much product removed from this area, it is going to ruin the shape of your nail and the look of it. So you want to make sure when you apply your product, you have just enough in that area, but that you're not flooding it. And then when you're shaping, you don't want to dig too much into that area either, because if you remove a chunk of it or you remove too much of it, your nail will no longer look the way that you need to. So again, you want to make sure that area is fully filled out and that you're letting your drill bit do the work for you. You don't want to dig into the nail. You want to use your nail drill as parallel as possible. And when I have the tapered drill bit attached to my nail drill, I just like to use it under the nail to clean, since it's the perfect shape. And we're just dusting it off, and we've pretty much cleaned the cuticle area. So now we're going to focus more on the free edge like I'm pointing to here. And we are going to use the round Pana bit. This is a coarse bit, so make sure you are careful with it because it can be sharp. And I'm just pointing here, I'm trying to file along the nail. I'm not trying to file into it too much because I don't want to lose that square shape. So I'm using it along the surface of the nail, just gently around the cuticle area, just a little bit more, and then under the nail especially, because this is my favorite drill bit to clean under the nail and to thin out the free edge area and just refine that C-curve as needed. And all of these are on Amazon. I have them on my Amazon storefront, so I will leave individual links in the description and the name of each product as well. So now I will just be finishing off filing under the nail, cleaning up any excess product as well as on top as well. So I'm just dusting off my nails one more time, and we are gonna keep focusing on the free edge. Now we're gonna try to make that square shape more crispy using a hand file. I love 80/80 grit hand files. They are really affordable on Amazon. I will leave a link in the descriptions to the ones I buy in bulk. I'm just seasoning the corners and the edges so we don't cut ourselves because they can be pretty coarse. And just showing here, you know, the shape of a square nail is basically gonna be those two sidewalls and the free edge. You don't want to file too much into the corner. So just imagine a square shape when you are shaping, and be careful not to file too much away where you don't need to. So I always start underneath the nail, under the sidewalls, and we're just removing any excess product that may be there. One thing that helps me is I try to focus on not tilting my file up too much. If you tilt it up too much, you may file away the corners more than you'd like. And moving on to the sidewalls, you know, filing against the sidewalls, we're just trying to keep our file straight and we're not putting a ton of pressure. Like I said, this file is pretty coarse, so let it do the work for you. And if you want to file, you know, this way with your file, you can do that as well. Just keep it straight. And I would definitely recommend using your file over the surface of the nail as well to smooth out any bumps that may still be there that you didn't get with your e-file. So I like to file the free edge to finish off. I like to file back and forth as well this way. I just pull my file away at the end because I have a tendency to file away too much of the corner. So this helps me, and you can see the shape turned out pretty nice and very square. So just continuing our hand filing on the rest of the nails, and this is what I was talking about earlier about not filing away into the corners when you're filing under the nail. So avoid that area that I was tapping on and try to keep your file as straight as you can. So as I mentioned, this file is really great for the surface of the nail. You will see a white chalky dust form as you file over the nail, and I use that as a visual indicator. Wherever I don't see that dust basically means there may still be some unevenness there. So I basically try to go over the entire nail, including the cuticle and apex area, until I see that dust, and that helps me know that I have filed the entire surface of the nail. And I then finish it off with the free edge again, pulling away so that I don't file into the corners too much. So here is how this nail looks after hand filing. You can see it looks so much more square than the other nails, and the shape looks so much more defined. So I would highly recommend an 80/80 grit hand file. You can see the huge difference here between pre-filing and post-hand filing. So I would highly recommend these files and incorporating them into your shaping routine if you haven't. Hand filing can definitely make a huge difference in how your shape looks in comparison to an e-file sometimes. So we will continue on with our hand filing, and I will just let the music play while you watch me hand file. But as you will see, I am basically trying to keep my file straight and not file too much into the corners. Again, think of a square with 4 sharp corners, so you want those 2 sidewalls coming down, and you want the 2 corners at the free edge. So that is what I always try to keep in mind as I file. Now we are taking some cuticle oil and we are gonna run our 5-in-1 bit along the cuticle area just one more time. I also don't always do this step. This is, you know, it varies, but it always provides a very nice finish. So I would recommend it if you haven't tried it out, and it does not cause any lifting in my experience. And finally, we are gonna go back in with our fine grit sanding band and just run it over the surface of the nail. I do this instead of buffing sometimes because I've already used this fine grit, at the beginning of our filing. So I would recommend it to create a nice clean surface for your nail art. And now we are just wiping off with Young Nail Swipe, removing any dust and just making sure we have a nice clean surface before we get into the nail art. This nail art is going to be super easy, perfect to do with your non-dominant hand. We are doing some textured 3D nails. I like to use this rhinestone glue from McCart. It is very thick and easy to work with. So basically you're just going to squeeze it from the bottle and create any design that you want. Here I did some diagonal kind of lines. The key to this is just getting comfortable with squeezing at different pressures. So when I first squeeze out, I am putting a lot more pressure, and then I lighten it as I go so that I get a skinnier line at the end. So that is the way that I do my technique for using the rhinestone glue. You can see here how the lines turned out thicker at one side and thinner at the end. So moving on to the next nail and applying the same technique, squeezing with more pressure at the bottom and then lightening up the pressure as we move towards the top. I'm just doing random designs here, just like random blobs, lines, and it's gonna come together at the end with the chrome powder. So just have fun with this and just do any abstract design that you'd like. I really wanted to go for kind of a mermaid look, so I tried to do some imitating like a seashell, and the chrome powder that we're gonna use also I think is very reminiscent of like mermaid nails. 3D nail art is super fun because it doesn't need to be precise, and I think the whole point of it is to just have fun with it and kind of do abstract various designs. So that's what we're really doing here. All we're really needing to do is squeeze from the tube, and I do take a cleanup brush to clean up and refine some of the lines as needed. So like here, they were a little bit thick where I didn't want them to be. So I just took a clean brush and kind of swiped it along that area to clean up the excess product. And yeah, this McCart rhinestone glue is very thick. I use this for charms as well, so it was the perfect consistency for this look. And I'm just finishing the thumb off with that kind of seashell look that I mentioned. Again, thicker at the bottom, thinner at the top, and then just making sure that we don't touch the cuticle. So I was just making sure here, you obviously want to keep your product off the cuticle, and then make sure you're fully curing it in your lamp. I personally use the Young Nails lamp and I really like it, so I will leave a link to it below as well. You could also use like a builder gel in a jar, apply that with the brush. I just really wanted to try with the tube. It was a little hard to get the hang of at first, but again, it's all about the pressure with this. And once we cure everything, we are gonna apply our top coat. Please be sure to fully cure this as well. It was a little difficult to apply because I was trying to get into all the crevices, because this is so textured. So just take your time with it, make sure you're applying a nice even layer, and then fully cure it in your lamp. And just wiping off any excess product with a lint-free wipe so that we don't ruin the square shape. Now the super fun part, this is the Mermaid Diva Aurora chrome powder from Amazon. I love this chrome powder. It is so pigmented and so easy to use. I like to use this little applicator, and you can already see how well this chrome powder looks. Like I've barely rubbed any in, and you can already see how shiny and reflective it is. This powder is super affordable and easy to use, and I think the color turns out really nice, so I would highly recommend it, and I will leave a link in the description as well. So yeah, just take your time with application. Because we have 3D textured nails, you definitely want to make sure you're getting all the corners of the nails, and then go ahead and fully cure that. And then I'm moving on to the next nail. I just decided to do one nail at a time, so doing the top coat and making sure we get around all the crevices. So going even this way with the top coat before we fully cure it, and then working in that chrome powder. You can see the powder is kind of flying everywhere, but again, the color is super nice. whenever I'm not sure like what I need to add to a nail set, or whenever I want to do a chrome nail set, I always find myself going back to this powder. I have also been using liquid chrome lately, and I like them both for different reasons. I don't feel like they turn out exactly the same. But the powder is also very easy to use and super affordable, and I also think you get a little bit more bang for your buck. The liquid chrome tends to run out pretty quickly, like the product itself in the bottle. So just finishing up the rest of this design, super straightforward, and I think this is a really fun and easy design to do with your non-dominant hand because you don't have to be precise at all. It's all about just having fun and creating some abstract designs. You don't even need a nail art brush. You don't need to draw anything. And the chrome powder really pulls the look together. So I would highly recommend trying this out next time you're trying to do your nails with your non-dominant hand. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please be sure to subscribe, like, leave any questions in the comments, and I will definitely respond back to you. I will leave all products and information in the comments as well. I have a bunch of other polygel tutorials posted on my page that you can check out, and more coming soon. We are moving into spooky season, so I will be sharing some of my favorite Halloween nail art and trying out some new looks with you all. And thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.